Thank you very much for meeting me.
A pleasure.
We are so close to the election. Can you please tell us what are the difference between your party and all the other ones that are standing in the elections?
Well, Wales Green Party is very, very different from the other establishment parties. We have the bold ideas to really tackle the cost of living crisis, the problems people are facing, nature and climate emergencies. These are things that we've put a lot of thought into, a lot of work, and we will be really making a difference in there, making the next Welsh government be bolder and actually work for the people of Wales.
So what is the difference? What is in your manifesto that someone who never heard of your party should know about?
Well, the manifesto is very much concerned with how things are now and how people are struggling, cost of living crisis, as I said. So we're looking at measures and also the inequality in Wales. 1 in 3 children in Wales is growing up in poverty. That can't be right. So we're putting a range of measures across to help tackle that, things like that. And that starts with housing, a rent freeze for a year while we bring in rent controls. And so many people are paying very over the odds for often inadequate housing. And you can't, if you haven't got safe, secure, warm, affordable housing, you can't build a life, you can't build a community. So we're very, very keen to tackle that, as I said, with the rent controls, a program for insulating people's homes so that it becomes cheaper to heat their homes, making public transport more accessible and affordable, starting with a £1 bus ticket for anyone over 22, free bus travel for anyone under 22, making it affordable for people to get to work, get to college, visit people in hospital. We're also looking at one of the big drivers of inequality is the very unfair council tax system in Wales. Often those with the least paying the most. We would scrap that and replace it with a land value tax to ensure that the wealthier pay their fair share. And then other issues like introducing a good childcare offer so that people aren't struggling to look after their children and work or study. All these issues helping making people's lives a bit easier. And also, obviously, lots of policies on making the NHS better, making the NHS work for everyone. And also, goes without saying, there's strong policies on restoring nature, protecting nature, and doing the things we need to reduce emissions and tackle the climate crisis.
So what you mentioned in the NHS, what every party has a plan for NHS. What is the Green Party plan?
Yeah, the NHS is obviously in a bad way after more than decades of underfunding, and there is a wider problem there with the funding formula that Wales gets from the United Kingdom government. We need to get the fair amount of money that Wales is owed, but in the short term now we need to tackle the crisis that exists in the NHS. So we're looking at a range of measures, moving resources from secondary care to primary care, getting dentists and GPs, community health hubs in people's communities so they can be seen when they need to be seen, and seen closer to home and nipping crises in the bud. Tackling these problems earlier will often result in less pressure on the NHS, less people in A&E. So many people going to A&E who don't really need that level of treatment. But we're also looking long term. This is a crisis that won't go away unless we address the underlying health issues. So we need to look at preventing people ending up needing hospital treatment as well. And that goes back to what I was saying about safe, warm homes, people living in homes that don't impact on their health, making public transport more accessible, more affordable, so people can travel around actively, which is good for their health, and making it easier to eat healthy, sustainable food as well. That shouldn't be a luxury option. So all those issues do help make people healthier, stop them developing long-term problems. There are always going to be people who need the NHS as well. That's why we have to make sure that we get the right resources in there and stop things like corridor care, which is just completely unacceptable. That people are being treated in hospital corridors, sat in chairs for 48 hours or more. That has to stop.
And how are you going to stop that?
Well, the first thing to do with that is scandals. I didn't know this until I started speaking to the nurses' unions. The scandal is the data isn't monitored. So no one knows how big the problem is. So what we would do is bring in a situation where once someone's been in the corridor for 24 hours, it gets declared a never event, which means it has to be logged and recorded. Then you can start to get a sense of the scale of the problem and how to tackle it. And you tackle it by reducing the reduction of beds. You enable clinicians to be able to work more frequently on weekends. There are measures to start fixing this so that people don't end up in that situation. But we first have to start with just measuring it and finding out how big the problem actually is.
And one question that is very important for us, given that we do talk to Polish community, but EU communities. Can you tell us what is the idea? Is there idea to look after us, the other whites?
Absolutely. I mean, we need to look after all our communities. Everyone who's chosen to make Wales their home, or everyone who has Wales as their home, needs to be treated equally and with respect. And immigration has been a big issue in this election, which has been really disappointing to see other parties using it as an election issue when it's not a devolved issue, but stirring up, for instance, attacking the nation of sanctuary, which primarily helped many Ukrainian people settle in Wales and contribute to Wales, working in the NHS, working in education. So we need to get that poisonous rhetoric out of our politics, because politicians throw these words around glibly, not knowing that they are actually causing many people living in fear because their lives, their existence has been weaponized as political football, and we cannot tolerate that in our politics.
Being very cheeky, how many um, people who haven't been born in Wales do you have in your party? Do you have anybody standing who isn't Welsh or British?
We have a wide range of people candidates standing. We're standing a full list of 96 candidates across Wales. I'm really proud of how they represent the demographic makeup of Wales. The young working class Welsh people, people such as myself who chose to make Wales my home 24 years ago now. Quite good few number of young candidates from the global majority background. I think it's important that everyone in Wales should see themselves represented in the people's get those seats in the Senedd.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that if a Polish person never heard of a Green Party, from the beginning of the existence of your party, is there something that you're really striving to do, you stand for?
We stand for justice, for climate justice, social justice, economic justice, racial justice. They're all interlinked. But I think what might be of interest to people, Polish people in the communities, we are very much a grassroots democratic organisation. Our membership has skyrocketed, but we still are. The members have the final say. Members make policy. Members get to put themselves forward to stand for election. So if someone is interested in politics and how it affects their community, I'd urge them to join and get involved, because your voice counts in the Green Party.